Guys, it's your boy 3 Stacks in this thing representing Team King of Games. Got some good news. We actually got our sponsorship from MetaMats, so shout outs to MetaMats because they do some pretty darn good work with their mats. They're also very innovative because they make cloth mats, which I had not heard of before I heard of MetaMats. They're the first to do it, so they are setting a category for themselves and kind of basically beating their competition at their own game because others don't do what they do. It's full color. Very, very durable. I honestly give it a 10 out of 10 just because my cards don't get damaged by the mat doesn't get damaged by the cards, the color does not fade, it doesn't chip away, it's embedded, it's soft, it's beautiful. And he made this mat custom for my team. As you can see, this is our logo. And it has Atem, which is, let me check something, the name of the pharaoh. And we have the pharaoh himself. So I think that's pretty cool if you guys want mats custom made and you don't want to just order a mat from a selection of, different mats. You can have it customized. If you like Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, etc., you can get that kind of mat. Get exactly what you ask for. So it's totally worth your money. So I think MetaMats does a better job than any other mat company that I've dealt with in the past. So 10 out of 10 for them. And shout outs to Gerard's Card Gaming, One Stop Gaming. They do some pretty darn good. They do a pretty darn good job themselves, and they do some pretty cool stuff. They actually host Rogue tournaments. Shout out to them because Rogue, you guys know I love Rogue decks. They're my favorite kind of deck. So I think that Gerard's kind of does some cool stuff as well. And they also have multiple tournaments, and they have it on decent days where everybody can kind of get there and still make it to work. So shout outs to Gerard's and shout outs to our new sponsor, MetaMats. Now we're going over a 50 card Dark Magician Spellbook deck. Something I've been wanting to build for so long. It was just making me mad because I wanted to build it and I was getting impatient. A lot of people have been asking me, can I get an update on your Dark Magicians? Can I get an update on your Spellbooks? So I'm also eliminating a couple things on my to-do list because I have a lot of decks that people are asking me to do, and this is just knocking 2 of them out at once. Without further ado, let's do this deck profile. We have 3 copies of Blue Boy. Now, Blue Boy is quite abusive in this deck because we're playing a full Spellbook engine. We're not just playing knowledge to draw like others would do. We're playing actual Spellbooks. So he searches anything, and the secret searches him. Now Blue Boy is just such a darn good, he's just such a darn good monster because you can set him with your fate, flip him again and get maximum value. I mean, he's an instant plus. Once you see him in your hand and you normal him, bam, you have that instant +1 due to Spellbook of Knowledge. So I really have such a high respect for this monster because he's an OG. I really love Spellbook Magician Blue Boy, which is his nickname, a lot. He's just such a great card, and because we have such a low monster count, I wanted every single monster to generate advantage in one way, shape, or form. We're also playing 3 copies of Magician's Rod. Similar to Blue Boy, he's basically kickstarting your engine for your Dark Magicians. So on the flip side, if you don't have Blue Boy, if you have Rod, you can start off on that end as well. Rod also can add himself from graveyard to hand, which makes him extremely extensive and abusive in the sense that you're never going to run out of Rod, so you'll never run out of searches, which is pretty cool. So you have the 6 normal summons of the deck. Moving forward to that, we have 3 copies of Dark Magician. I mean, it's Team King of Games. Our theme is Yugi, and this is Yugi's best monster. It's his ace in the hole. His effect is he's the ultimate wizard in terms of attack and defense. I'm trying to get ultimate rares of him. I'm trying to get ultimate rares of like every card that's possible in this deck. This is just one of my dreams. I wanted to make a max rarity Dark Magician deck because, Dark Magician is such an OG, and I'm like, let's, out of respect, make the deck max. If you guys don't care about max rarity, that's cool. Just don't cuss me out and trip out, for no reason and get upset. I mean, teach his own rarity. So if you can't fit, at least I respect you. So please don't flip out just because I'm talking about rarity. 3 copies of Magician of Dark Illusion. He is the shadow of Dark Magician. That will sum up the monster count. We're playing 12 monsters. And Magician of Dark Illusion is quite abusive because he allows you to extend your plays for Dark Magical Circle and make rank 7s with 1 card basically. For the spells, which is the bread and butter of the deck, let me check my camera. We are playing 3 copies of Spellbook of Secrets. This searches Blue Boy or anything you need. I'm playing more than just knowledge, so I have a lot of targets in this. And this also loads up my grade 4 Spellbook of Fate, which I also play in this deck because it's too good. It's way too strong. Now moving forward with the spells, we're playing 3 copies of Dark Magical Circle. This deck actually has more draw power than pure true Dracos do, and I'm not lying to you. It has more draw power than any deck I've ever built, including the Spellbook deck that I showcased to you guys. It has too much draw power. So Circle is quite abusive because you get to see the cards that you're going to draw first. and rearrange them in the order accordingly. It also, of course, lets you add to hand if you happen to hit a Dark Magician or one of his spells and traps, and we all know that it banishes cards, so it's quite an abusive spell. Then we play 3 copies of card Demise. This deck plays Demise quite well because it only has 12 monsters. In addition to that, it does not special summon ever on its own turn. All your special summoning happens on your opponent's turn, making card Demise quite a powerful spell. Where are we at? There we go. So I feel that this does not deserve to be hit because it helps out decks like this to be able to contend with other meta decks. It kind of makes, basically it makes it fair. You know, if Zodiacs get to be so overpowered and extensive, why can't Dark Magician have card Demise? That's just my 2 cents. But some people will argue and say it deserves to be hit, but we're not here to argue. We're here to do deck profiles and share good ideas with the beautiful community of Yu-Gi-Oh! 3 copies of Spellbook of Knowledge. It won't draw you 3 cards like Demise, but it will draw you 2 cards, which is pretty impressive. And even though it's a hard once per turn, we do play Spellbook of Masters, which allows you to copy its effect and do it all over again, so you can draw 4 cards instead of 2. That is the edge that Pure Prophecy or a more pure variant of Prophecies has over decks that just play Blue Boy, Secrets, and Knowledge to draw. So we're playing 3 of that. In tandem with that, we're moving forward to 2 ofs. We play 2 copies of Desires. This is a 50 card deck, so you can actually get away with desiring more than once. I found that we were drawing so much that I did not want to run 3 Desires because I'm drawing into it a lot. So we don't really need to open up with it. We'd rather open up with our actual combo pieces and then allow Desires to act as an extender or as a card that can tend to fix your hand in those awkward situations. But it is a generic +1, and this deck loves +1 so much, we have to play Desires. At 2, though, it's a very comfortable number for this particular deck. In tandem with that, we play 2 of these beautiful Wonder Wands. I'm trying to get as many ultimate rares as possible, as I told you guys. The Wonder Wands help out a lot with Magician's Rod, because when you tribute off your Rod to draw 2, you can add Rod back from your graveyard to your hand, which becomes a +2. In addition to that, it helps you to beat over monsters that you cannot beat over in the first place. So Wonder Wand has multiple uses in this deck. Now, some can say, well, if you Wonder Wand, you can't Knowledge. That's not true. You can Knowledge and discard any of your Spellbook spell cards, which I play a lot of. So I have a lot of targets for Knowledge. As you can imagine, Knowledge is always live. So that eliminates that argument that some people would say Wonder Wand conflicts with Knowledge. No, if you're running Spellbooks, actual Spellbooks, and not just Secret and Knowledge, you can play Wonder Wand very comfortably. It works out well, especially bringing out, for example, an Ebon Illusion Magician at 3,000, which is pretty darn impressive. It just helps you to get firepower that you didn't have access to. And it's also another +1, just like Desires. If you normal summon Blue Boy or Rod and get a search, you can activate this +1, Desires +1, Knowledge +1, Demise +2. Pluses, right? A lot of pluses, and even Spellbook of Secrets is a plus itself. 2 Allures. I need another ultimate rare, but we're playing 2 Allures because I have only the 9 dark monsters, and all of them are actually mandatory, so I can't afford to actually banish 3 of my dark monsters. It can be abusive sometimes when you open up with multiple dark monsters and you need to banish one of them so that you can play your card Demise and not have to discard that monster. It also helps because you can add Magician's Rod from your graveyard to your hand. But all in all, I found that in this particular build, not saying that it's bad, that Allure of Darkness just was kind of just a number that I wanted to play at 2, because the 3, I was seeing it a bit too much. And then it was like, I have the dark, but I need the dark, you know, I need the Rod, I need the Illusion, I need the Dark Magician. I can't afford to banish it. So I'm playing it at 2. Again, if this was pure Dark Magician and not Prophecies, and if it wasn't the kind of deck I'm playing, you would play 3 of it most definitely, but I just did not want to. We can argue all day, but I'm never going to actually reply. So if you have a negative comment, or, you know, if you have dislike towards the 2 Allures, that's totally fine. Every man is entitled to his opinion, and I respect everyone who watches my deck profiles, and I respect your opinions. So I will let you have your 2 cents on anything you want. 2 copies of Into the Void. I found it to be a more comfortable number at 2. We want to play a lot of draw power because it's a 50 card deck, so you want to thin your deck out as much as possible. And funny thing, this deck is a lot more consistent than any 40 card deck that I've seen, which is pretty darn impressive. But 2 Into the Voids. Once I get my 3rd ultimate rare, I might just add it in and take a card out just because I want to play a lot of ultis again. I just wanted to make the most beautiful blinged out deck for Dark Magicians. 2 dualities. This was something that I tested out, and it just came down to, similar to Pot of Desires, it was a hard once per turn that I just couldn't afford to play 3 because of the deck. The only hard once per turn 3-ofs that I play are absolutely mandatory and will win me games. Duality is great, but it's perfect at 2 because you draw it so freaking much. And we need ultis of this, of course. 2 copies of Illusion Magic. Now, this is pretty good because it's a +1 as well. You can normal summon Rod, activate his effect to search, and then you can activate this and search 2 Dark Magicians. It also forces Kaiju Slumber to miss timing. If they try to slumber your board, you can activate this, tribute off your spellcaster. Now you have no monsters on the field, slumber can miss timing. That's just one way that you can abuse your Illusion Magic. So it's quite an abusive spell because it happens to be a spell speed 2, which is impressive. So again, it is a +1. So you have a lot of +1s. I wish I had like a paper to count how many +1s the deck has. 2 Grand Spellbook Towers. This lets you put any spellbook back from your graveyard to the bottom of your deck and draw an additional card. So every turn you get to draw 2 cards so long as it stays up. And it also recycles your spellbook, which is pretty important because you don't want to burn through your entire spellbook engine because they help out a lot. They actually extend your Dark Magician plays. We have 1 Master, 1 Eternity, and 1 Power. Now, Master himself actually lets you activate any hard once per turn again. For example, Secrets can only activate once per turn, but if you play Master, you can copy its effect and activate it again. So this is the definition of overextending. I like it a lot. And Eternity adds any banished spellbook from banished zone to hand, so it helps you to recycle the cards that you banish off of your Fate. And we'll get to Fate when we get to that. And Power helps you to beat over things as well because it gives your spellcaster 1,000 attack. So if you have Wonder Wand and Power, you can put, for example, a Magician's Rod at 3,100. So that little level 3 monster is going to beat over a lot of stuff. Or Dark Magician himself at 4,000 attack. And this also adds any spellbook from your deck to your hand. So this searches, this can search or do anything, and this adds from banished on the hand. So these are consistent. They generate more advantage. So every single spell I've showcased up until this point is extremely consistent and basically lets you keep your hand fat, juicy, and filled up. So you'll never have to worry about, oh, my board got broken. You can reestablish easy because you have so much resources at access. 2 Spellbook of Fate. Now, this is abusive with Circle because you can trigger Circle to banish your opponent's card. Then you can activate Fate and banish another card. So I really loved the synergy with Fate and also with Circle in the Dark Magician build. What is going on with this? All right. There we go. Sorry for that. So that's why I'm playing Fate in this build because it helps you to banish even more problematic cards and it does not target. So you can get over the card that couldn't be targeted with Fate and then the other card that can be targeted, you can banish it with Circle. So it's just, again, more banishing with this deck does very well. You can recycle this and keep banishing. So I really love Fate a lot. It was just a card that I wanted to play in this deck because you have spellcasters. You have the way to search it and you have the way to load your grave up for it. We also play 1 Wisdom. Now there are problems when your opponent hits Eternal Soul with, for example, a True Draco spell. Eternal Soul would kick in and destroy all your monsters, but you can activate Wisdom and make your Dark Magician unaffected by traps, which means that Eternal Soul cannot destroy it. So that's one way that this is abusive. Another way is just it can make any spellcaster unaffected by spells or traps, so it can protect from board wipes. If you're feeling like they're going to strike you, you can play this preemptively first and then do your effect. Vice versa, etc., etc. It's just quite an abusive spell, and it's searchable, but just as a one-off. I just found it worked perfect at 1, and everything is recyclable that has Spellbook in its name. That will sum up the spells, which as you can see is pretty hefty and fat. Now the traps, we play 3 copies of Eternal Soul and 3 Magician's Navigation. The only traps I play. Now Soul is very extensive and it just gives you such longevity to your plays. And Navigation from Grave can actually protect you and it can negate Pot of Desires, Duality. It just has its day sometimes. It helps out a lot and stops Twin Twisters. So that will sum up the traps. The extra deck is actually very small. Most of the time you're playing main deck beatdown. When you go into the extra deck, you're making Ebon High. I only have 1 Ebon Illusion. I need 2 because I wanted to play 2 and 2. But these are the best cards to make. Then you have Hierophant of Prophecy, Big Eye, Draco Sack, and Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon. Now because I cannot play 15 cards in my extra deck, if I tried, there's not enough rank 7s. And I could make Break Sword, but Break Sword never ever comes up. You would have to literally have 2 Magician's Rods and it just never comes up. So because of that, I wanted to showcase you guys this pretty cool tech, Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherry. So you guys can actually play this. Since you have so much space in your extra deck, you can literally put every problematic extra deck monster in your extra deck for your Reapers because you have the space. That's just something that you can do. It's just food for thought. So that will sum up my deck profile, you guys. Give your honest opinion and feedback on how you think the deck can function, if you think it's any good. I think it's quite creative and I like it a lot, but that's just me. God bless you guys. Thank you so much for watching the deck profile. Thank you guys for showing love and supporting my team. I appreciate you so much. Y'all have a beautiful day. Make good choices. Don't hurt your brain cells. Mwah. Take care of your families. I love you.